Right now, as you're sitting there listening to this, there is an unbelievably complex war being fought inside your body. It's not a metaphor, it's a literal, microscopic battle. We're talking trillions of invaders, bacteria, viruses, fungi, all trying to find a home, to set up camp inside you. And the only thing standing between you and them is this incredible defense system. This isn't just about whether you catch a cold or not. This is a deep, fascinating story of constant surveillance, of high-level intelligence gathering, and a precision-targeted warfare that is protecting you every single second of every single day. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to dive into the cells, the strategies, and the amazing discoveries that have shown us just how complex and brilliant your immune system, your body's ultimate defense force, truly is.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start at the very beginning with a simple, elegant observation that basically gave birth to the entire field of immunology. Then we'll get the lay of the land, mapping out the two main branches of your body's defenses. Think of them as the general frontline soldiers and the highly trained elite special ops teams. From there, we'll look at the specific weapons and targets they use, and we'll finish up with the real heavy hitters, the elite cellular assault teams that take on the most dangerous threats that get inside our own cells.
All right, let's wind the clock back. Our story begins in the late 19th century. Now, you have to understand, this was a wild time for medicine. Giants like Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch had just completely turned science on its head with something called germ theory. For the first time, people understood that diseases weren't caused by bad air or miasma or some imbalance of your humors. No, they were caused by invisible, microscopic organisms. And this created a brand new, terrifying question. If we are literally swimming in a sea of these invisible enemies, how on earth do any of us survive? The answer, incredibly, didn't come from some fancy high-tech lab. It came from a Russian scientist named Ilya Mechnikov, and his fascination with some very, very simple sea creatures.
This quote right here is a snapshot of a pure eureka moment. Imagine this. It's 1882. Ilya Mechnikov is peering through his microscope at these tiny, transparent starfish larvae. Because they're see-through, he can watch their inner workings in real time. And he notices these little cells just wandering around, seemingly with a mind of their own. And then the thought hits him. What if these aren't just random cells? What if this is an internal police force, a security detail? So to test this wild idea, he does something so simple it's brilliant. He takes a tiny thorn from a rosebush and sticks it into one of the larvae. He comes back the next morning, looks through his microscope, and what does he see? The thorn is completely swarmed by these wandering cells. They've surrounded it, just like our own white blood cells would swarm a splinter in your finger. That was it. That was the spark. That simple experiment was the birth of cellular immunology.
Mechnikov needed a name for these amazing cells, and he came up with the perfect one: phagocytes. It's straight from Greek. Phagin means to eat, and kaitos means cell. So literally, they are eating cells. And his proposal was radical. He said these cells are the primary defenders of the body. They're a dedicated cleanup crew and a team of first responders that actively hunt down, swallow, and completely destroy anything that doesn't belong. Now, you have to understand how revolutionary this was. At the time, the prevailing theory was that immunity was all chemical. Scientists thought there was just some substance in our blood serum that neutralized toxins. Mechnikov came along and said, no, it's a battle. It's an active, cellular war being fought on the ground, cell to cell. It was a huge scientific debate. Mechnikov didn't just discover them, he studied how they work, a process he called phagocytosis. And it's not just random munching, it's a highly choreographed 7-step mission. First up is step 1, chemotaxis. Think of this as the phagocyte getting an SOS signal. Damaged tissues or the invaders themselves release chemicals, and the phagocyte follows this chemical trail like a bloodhound on a scent. Once it finds the target, we get step 2, attachment. The phagocyte has to physically grab onto the intruder. It has special receptors on its surface that lock on. Then comes the really cool part. Step 3, ingestion. The cell's outer membrane literally reaches out with these arm-like projections, called pseudopods. They wrap around the target, pull it inside, and trap it in a little bubble called the phagosome. Now the invader's trapped. Steps 4 and 5 are fusion and killing. That bubble, the phagosome, merges with another pouch inside the cell called a lysosome. The lysosome is basically the cell's garbage disposal unit. It's filled with incredibly powerful digestive enzymes. When they fuse, they create a killing chamber called the phagolysosome, where the invader is just torn apart by these chemicals. Finally, you have steps 6 and 7, breakdown and exocytosis. The enzymes completely dismantle the dead invader into harmless little bits, and the cell just spits out the waste products. It's a perfect, complete cycle. Search, capture, destroy, and dispose. So Metchnikoff's incredible discovery of these eating cells was really the first major piece of a much, much larger puzzle. What we've learned since then is that our bodies have an incredibly sophisticated, multi-layered defense strategy, and scientists now group this entire strategy into two major, deeply interconnected branches. So let's zoom out and look at the big picture blueprint of your immune system. But before we dig into those two branches, it's really important to appreciate just how broad the field of immunology is today. It's about so much more than just fighting off the flu. It's the study of how our bodies fight cancer, which, remember, is our own cells that have gone rogue. It's immunology that explains why a life-saving organ transplant can sometimes be rejected. The immune system sees that new kidney or heart as a dangerous foreign invader. And crucially, immunology explores what happens when this powerful system goes wrong. Think about allergies. That's your immune system having a massive overreaction to something harmless like pollen or peanuts. And in autoimmune diseases, it's a tragic case of friendly fire, where the system turns its powerful weapons against its own healthy tissues. This system is absolutely central to our health and disease in almost every way imaginable.
Okay, here they are, the two fundamental divisions of your immune system. On the left, we've got innate immunity. The best way to think about this is like a castle's defenses. It's the high walls, the moat, the guards on patrol. It's inborn. You have it from the moment you're born. And it's non-specific. The guards will attack any invader trying to get over the wall. They don't care about the specific uniform. The response is super fast, but it doesn't learn and it doesn't remember. On the right, we have acquired or specific immunity. This isn't the castle wall. This is your elite spy agency and your team of special ops assassins. It's not inborn. You have to develop it over your lifetime as you encounter different enemies. And it is incredibly specific. It designs a custom-made attack plan for each individual bad guy, and most importantly, it creates a memory. Once it takes out an enemy, it keeps their file forever, guaranteeing a much faster, much stronger response if that enemy ever shows its face again.
All right, let's dive deep into that first line of defense, the innate immune system. This is the system that's working for you 24/7. It's constantly on guard, protecting you from the millions of microbes you encounter every single day just by breathing, eating, and touching things. It's a whole collection of physical barriers and general responses that are all designed to stop an infection before it can even get started.
The first and most obvious parts of your innate immunity are your physical barriers. Your skin is the big one. It's like your body's personal suit of armor. It's a tough outer wall made of tightly packed cells and a protein called keratin that most microbes just can't get through. Now, for all the openings in your body, your nose, your mouth, your lungs, you have mucous membranes. These are soft inner linings that secrete a sticky mucus. It's basically biological flypaper. It traps invaders before they can get any further. In your airways, you even have these microscopic hairs called cilia that are constantly beating upwards, creating something called a mucociliary escalator that carries all that trapped gunk up and out of your lungs. And then you have simple mechanical actions, the flushing of urine, the constant flow of saliva in your mouth, and the washing action of tears. These are all just physically washing away potential pathogens. Simple, yes, but incredibly effective.
But wait, there's more. It's not just about physical walls and traps. Your innate system is also a master of chemical warfare. The salt in your sweat, for instance, makes your skin a pretty nasty place for many bacteria to live. Your tears and your saliva contain a powerful enzyme called lysozyme. Lysozyme is amazing. It can actually break apart the cell walls of certain bacteria, causing them to burst and die. And of course, your stomach is basically a pit of hydrochloric acid that obliterates most of the microbes you swallow. These chemical defenses provide a potent second layer of protection right at the surface, neutralizing threats on contact.
So, what happens when one of those barriers is breached? You get a cut, or that splinter Metchnikoff was thinking about? The innate system immediately triggers inflammation. Now, we usually think of inflammation as a bad thing, but it's actually a vital protective response. It has 5 classic signs, and each one has a very specific purpose. Redness and heat happen because the blood vessels in the area open up wide. It's like opening all the lanes on a highway to rush emergency services to the scene. Swelling is caused by fluid leaking out of those blood vessels and into the tissue. This brings even more immune goodies to the fight, and importantly, it allows cells like phagocytes to get out of the bloodstream and into the tissue where the problem is. Pain is your body's alarm system. It's your nerves telling you, hey, pay attention, we're injured here, protect this area. And sometimes you'll get a temporary loss of function, which is your body's way of forcing you to rest the injured part. Altogether, these signs are the hallmark of a coordinated, immediate response to contain a threat and kickstart the healing process.
Now, if the local response isn't enough and an infection starts to spread, the innate system can go systemic. It can deploy a body-wide weapon, a fever. A fever isn't just a symptom of being sick, it's an active defense mechanism. Chemical distress signals travel to a part of your brain called the hypothalamus, your body's thermostat, and tell it to crank up the heat. This is a brilliant strategic move for a few reasons. First, most bacteria and viruses are optimized to reproduce at normal body temperature. Raising it just a few degrees really slows down their growth. Second, that higher temperature actually speeds up the chemical reactions in your own immune cells, making them faster and more effective. And third, it can help your body hide away iron, a nutrient that many invading bacteria desperately need to grow. It's like cutting off their supply lines. A fever makes your entire body a much more hostile environment for the invaders, all while supercharging your own defenses.
So the innate system is our powerful, always-on, brute force defense. It's fantastic. But what happens when a really nasty bug gets past it? Or what about brand new enemies your body has never seen before? For that, you need something more sophisticated. You need to call in the specialists. We now turn to the second branch of your immune system, the acquired or specific immune system. This is your body's intelligence agency and its elite special operations force. It's capable of learning, adapting, and, this is the most important part, remembering.
So, this begs the question, how exactly do we acquire this incredible specific immunity? Well, it turns out there are 4 main ways to get it. This flowchart breaks it all down perfectly. It's organized along 2 key distinctions. Is it natural or artificial? And is it active or passive? Getting a handle on these 4 pathways is absolutely essential for understanding how we're protected from disease, both through everyday life and through the marvels of modern medicine. Let's break down each quadrant.
Let's walk through these 4 paths. First up, natural active immunity. This is the old-fashioned way. You get sick with something like the chickenpox, you feel miserable for a week, but during that time, your acquired immune system mounts a full-scale war, learns the enemy's weaknesses, and creates memory cells. You did the work yourself, it was active, and the protection is incredibly long-lasting, often for life. Next, we have natural passive immunity. This is one of nature's most beautiful gifts. A baby in the womb receives ready-made defenses, called antibodies, directly from its mother across the placenta and later through breast milk. The baby's body didn't make them, it's passively receiving them. This protection is temporary, but it's absolutely crucial for protecting the newborn in its first few months of life. Then we have the genius of modern medicine, artificial active immunity. This is a vaccine. We introduce a safe piece of the pathogen, or a killed or weakened version of it, to your body. It can't make you sick, but it's enough to trick your immune system into mounting a response and creating memory cells. So it's artificial, but your body is still actively doing the work. It's like getting all the benefits of being sick without any of the suffering. And finally, there's artificial passive immunity. This is for emergencies. If you get bitten by a venomous snake, you don't have weeks to build your own immunity. You need help now. So you get a direct injection of pre-made antibodies, an antivenom or an immune serum. It provides immediate, powerful, but temporary protection.
Okay, now that we have the big picture strategy of the 2 systems, we need to zoom in, way in, down to the molecular level. How does that specific immune system actually recognize one enemy from another, and what are the precise weapons it builds to fight them? This brings us to probably the 2 most important words in all of immunology, antigens and antibodies.
First, let's talk about the target, the antigen. An antigen is basically any molecule that your immune system looks at and says, hey, you're not from around here. Think of it as the enemy's uniform. These are usually big, complex proteins or sugars on the surface of a bacterium or a virus. But here's the critical detail. Your immune system doesn't see the whole uniform. It recognizes very small, specific, 3-dimensional shapes on the surface of that antigen. These unique little shapes are called epitopes. A single virus might be covered in thousands of different epitopes. So you can think of the whole antigen as an enemy soldier, but the epitope is the unique patch on their uniform, or the specific shape of the weapon they're carrying. That's the part your immune system locks onto.
And if the epitope is the lock, then the key is the antibody. This is the weapon. Antibodies, which are also called immunoglobulins, are these incredible Y-shaped protein molecules. They're produced by a type of immune cell called a B cell. Now, the very tips of that Y form a unique binding site that is custom-made to fit one and only one specific epitope. The specificity is absolutely mind-boggling. An antibody built to recognize the measles virus will completely ignore the flu virus. Now, when an antibody binds to its target, it usually doesn't kill it directly. Instead, it acts like a tag or a flag. It can neutralize the enemy by physically blocking the part it uses to infect our cells, or more often, it marks the invader for destruction by other parts of the immune system, like telling those phagocytes, hey, lunch is over here.
They are the precision-guided missiles of your immune system.
Now, it turns out not all antibodies are created equal. Your body actually makes 5 different classes or isotypes, each with a unique structure and a specific job. Think of it as a toolkit with different tools for different tasks. IgA is the gatekeeper. It's secreted into your mucus, saliva, and tears to guard all the entry points to your body. IgM is the first responder. It's a huge molecule, a pentamer, that's really good at grabbing onto a lot of invaders at once, making it perfect for the early stages of an infection. IgG is the workhorse or the veteran soldier. It's the most abundant antibody in your blood, and it's the key to long-term memory. IgD acts like a sentry or antenna on the surface of B cells, helping to activate them in the first place. And finally, there's IgE, the specialist. It's infamous for its role in causing allergies, but its original and still important job is likely to fight off parasitic worms. Your body is smart. It deploys these different classes strategically to give you complete layered protection.
Let's just pause on IgG for a second because it is the undisputed champion of antibodies. A whopping 80% of all the immunoglobulins circulating in your blood right now are IgG. It's the star player of your long-term immunity, the one that surges when you encounter a pathogen for a second time. And it has a unique superpower. IgG is the only class of antibody that can cross the placenta from a mother to her fetus. This is the molecular mechanism behind natural passive immunity. It's mom's immune system literally reaching across and handing her baby a pre-made defense force to use for its first few months of life. It's just an incredible piece of evolutionary engineering.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about antibodies, and they're fantastic for dealing with bad guys that are floating around in your body fluids, like your blood or your lymph. But what about the really sneaky enemies? What about the ones that don't stay out in the open? I'm talking about viruses, which are like cellular hijackers. They get inside our own cells and turn them into virus-making factories. Antibodies are way too big to get in there. For this kind of internal threat, you need a whole different strategy. You can't just bomb the city. You need to send in the SWAT team to go door to door. This is the world of cell-mediated immunity, and the star players here are the T cells.
We have 2 major types of T cells, and they have very different jobs. On the left are the CD8 T cells, better known as killer T cells. Their job is to patrol your body and inspect your own cells for signs of internal trouble. Here's how it works. Nearly every cell in your body has a special kind of molecular display case on its surface, called MHC class I. All day long, these cells take little pieces of the proteins they're making inside and display them in this window. It's like a continuous status report saying, "Hi, I'm a healthy liver cell, and here's a sample of what I'm up to." A killer T cell comes by, checks the sample, and moves on. But if a cell is infected with a virus, it starts displaying pieces of viral protein. The killer T cell sees that and knows the cell is compromised. Its orders are simple: eliminate the threat. Now on the right, we have the CD4 T cells, or helper T cells. These are the generals, the coordinators of the entire immune response. They don't kill cells directly. Instead, they inspect the display cases of other professional immune cells, like our old friends the phagocytes. These professional cells use a different display case, called MHC class II. When a phagocyte eats an invader, it breaks it up and displays a piece on its MHC class II molecule. This is like an intelligence officer showing the general a wanted poster. "Sir, this is what the enemy looks like." The helper T cell sees this, sounds the alarm, and releases powerful chemical messengers called cytokines to activate and direct the entire army. The killer T cells, the B cells, everyone.
So let's walk through this cellular assassination step by step. It's incredible. Step 1, a cell gets infected by a virus. It starts making viral proteins. Its internal quality control system grabs some of those foreign proteins, chops them up, and puts them on display in its MHC class I window. This is the cell raising a red flag, basically screaming, "I've been hijacked." Step 2, a patrolling CD8 killer T cell that has the exact right receptor for that viral fragment comes along. It sees the flag, recognizes the enemy, and binds tightly to the infected cell. It's locked on. Step 3, the T cell delivers the kiss of death. It releases granules filled with a protein called perforin. And step 4 is the kill shot. The perforin molecules punch holes or pores all over the target cell's membrane. The cell can no longer maintain its integrity, and it ruptures and dies, destroying the virus factory inside. And then, step 5, the T cell, completely unharmed, detaches and moves on, a relentless and efficient killer ready to find and eliminate its next target.
And this brings us to a final, really profound thought. This whole system of internal surveillance, where T cells are constantly checking our own cells for signs of trouble, it's designed to find cells infected by outside invaders. But what about insiders gone bad? What about our own cells that mutate and become traitors? Because that's exactly what cancer is.
So the question is, could we harness this incredibly powerful system to fight cancer? The answer is an explosive, resounding yes. This is the entire basis for the revolutionary field of tumor immunology. See, cancer cells, because they're mutated, often produce abnormal proteins. And just like a virus-infected cell, they can display fragments of these abnormal proteins on their MHC class I molecules. This flags them for destruction by our own killer T cells. In fact, your immune system is probably killing off potential cancer cells all the time without you ever knowing it. And modern therapies are now designed to boost this natural ability. We even have a proof of concept that's been around for years, the hepatitis B vaccine. It prevents a viral infection, sure, but it's also considered the first anti-cancer vaccine, because by preventing the virus, it also prevents the liver cancer that the virus can cause. It's a brilliant illustration of how understanding this fundamental defense system is opening up a whole new universe of possibilities for our health.